Welcome, teacher friend. I'm Lori.
And I'm Melissa.
We are two literacy educators in Baltimore. We want the best for all kids, and we know you do too.
Our district recently adopted a new literacy curriculum, which meant a lot of change for everyone. Lori and I can't wait to keep learning about literacy with you today.
Hey everyone, welcome to Melissa and Lori Love Literacy. Today we are reconnecting with some old friends, our friends from the Literacy Documentary team. And we just can't wait to talk to them again about all they've been up to since we last talked with them. And we have a little viewing of the trailer, or I'm sorry, the teaser.
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 It's so exciting. The teaser is so exciting.
The teaser is amazing. It brings me to tears, almost tears every time.
I know. I've shared it on Twitter like a million times. Like, please just watch this, please.
Yeah. It's getting a lot of energy and attention, as it should.
It definitely should. Yep.
Yeah. In the podcast, we'll actually listen to the audio version of it to start. So if you haven't seen the teaser, we'll link it, and then you also get to hear it in the podcast.
Absolutely. And we'll just touch base with our friends, John and Nora and Nick, to talk about where they are still in the process of making it happen, right? Because it's not done. This movie's not done yet, right? They are still like in the process of making it happen.
They are. And today is Giving Tuesday. And so we thought, what better way to give than to promote our friends' documentary that desperately needs some fundraising. And I know, Melissa, you and I are giving as Melissa and Lori Love Literacy podcast. And we just would encourage anyone who feels in the spirit of giving today to give to our literacy documentary friends so that they can continue this good work with their documentary. And they'll share why it's important that it stays, publicly funded, I guess is the way we would say it. Non-corporate funding.
Yeah. So that it's funded by the people.
Mm-hmm. For the people, by the people.
That's right. All right. Shall we jump on in?
Let's do it.
All right.
So go ahead, take your time going down and just read me those words from the top to the bottom.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, you're right.
Bought, interested, knowledge, peace, euphemism.
Unless I really dig deep into this one, I don't have an answer.
Really hard. The answer is really hard.
This seems like elementary school. I feel embarrassed.
All across this country, kids are not being taught how to read the words.
This is a misunderstanding that has to be exposed, that the system works for most kids and it's those few that fail. And that's a lie.
Look it up. It's everywhere. You will see over 60% of children are not reading at grade level proficiency.
I was definitely hiding, keeping this secret to myself because I was embarrassed. More than anything, I felt like a fraud.
I remember I was always nervous to get called on. The teacher would realize who would read the best. They would eventually just continue calling on that person to read. I would always struggle.
17 years I taught public high school in California. I could not read, write, or spell.
We've got large challenges here in America. No greater challenge than to make sure that every child, not just a few children, every child receive a first-class education.
The No Child Left Behind law. No Child Left Behind had us focused on standardized tests, which start in third grade. So everyone was laser focused on third grade and beyond, and kind of what was happening K-1-2, they lost track of it.
There's a notion, a belief that kids start to read because they've matured to the point where they're ready to start reading. Not correct.
the reading wars. Should we be teaching kids phonics or what was termed whole language? The theory was they just need to memorize a whole bunch of words, and that's what good readers do.
They say, no, it's all about comprehension. When I say, well, if they can't read the words, how can they comprehend? It's almost like suggesting that a child who was listening to Mozart all their life, you put them in front of a piano and you say, now you play Mozart.
Research is unequivocally solid that phonemic awareness is absolutely critical to reach your highest potential reading and in spelling. It's something that we use all the time when we're reading and we don't even know it.
It's a lot more than phonics. It's the mechanics of how to read.
My daughter's kindergarten year, I was in the classroom. I saw their teaching instruction. She had directed them away from the words. Look at the picture. Do you think it's a bear or is it a fox? It stopped me in my tracks because it was everything that I had taught myself to do to look like a good reader.
And so you have to ask yourself, if we have this data, if we have this knowledge, why does there have to be a war? When we know that the outcomes of us having that debate is literally the trajectory of someone's life.
If people only knew, it just totally tears you apart.
This entire issue requires a grassroots movement of parents and educators who are angry and who say enough is enough.
We're not done. We're not done. It's not too late.
It's pretty good. We did a good job.
Yeah, you did.
All of us. All of us. I mean, all of us. It's here. It's happening. That's the goal.
Yeah, it's I get goosebumps and I cry a little bit every single time I watch.
I know.
John, is that your dad?
No, that's just a coordinate, not even related. He's somebody that Nora taught to read in Michigan.
Is it? But it's your same last name, right?
Yeah, same last name. My father was very literate. I mean, he read every night.
Oh wow!
Read 3 newspapers, read the book, and my mother was very literate also. But I think my father read Gone with the Wind, a big thick book there in one sitting. He was so excited. He loved books. I have 5 sisters that read also, and they enjoyed reading with him. And my grandchildren are all good readers, and their parents are good readers. So I'm kind of I don't know if I can use the word black sheep anymore, but I was the one that really didn't get it.
Yeah. Oh. Well, either way, we're very grateful that you're here. So we are here with our literacy dream team and literacy documentary dream team, I should say. So welcome back, Lit Doc team.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we are so grateful that you made that incredible teaser and put it out into the world. It's been spreading the good word about your forthcoming documentary. And the episode that we recorded with you, your first episode, has gotten so many downloads. I bet Melissa could read the stats off. Like, do you know them?
I usually have them memorized, but I know it was almost 1,000 just in this past month. Once that teaser came out, we had a lot of people listen.
Cool.
Yeah.
The foundation got 65,000 viewers off of the YouTube.
Oh, that's amazing.
And it's still growing. So we're excited about that.
I'm putting it in all the parent groups that I'm in. I'm like, oh, if you're confused about what's happening at your child's school, watch this. This is going to be coming and it'll help you understand. So we're doing all kinds of grassroots promoting here, but we're really grateful to have you back. And we'd love to just hear a little bit about where you've been since we last talked with you.
I would share with you that my favorite comment from my friends and from others that it's better than I thought it was going to be. It was, great. And I guess I have the same feeling. It is really great to watch it and see it. And that we've captured a piece of it there. And we have some more work to do. But Nick was saying earlier, is a fantastic team that we have. And one of the things that we've done with the people that we're going to interview and others that we've spoken to is, what would you like to see in it? What's necessary? What would you like to say? And I think that's what we're doing. In the beginning here, we talked about privately about doing something that's never been done before. And right now, my heart's beating fast right now, because I think that's where we're going to go. That's where our spirit is right now, to do something and say it in a way that's it's never been said before.
Yeah,
and I think we're on the road.
I want to expand on that, because I really used a lot of self-control to not ask Nick, like, what's going to be in this teaser? There was about 40 hours of taping that I got to sit in on most of. And I'm like, how in God's green earth are they possibly going to put this into 4 minutes? And I know that Nick is brilliant, but I'm like, really? Are they going to be able to, encapsulate it in 4 minutes so people how they did it? It's just miraculous to me. I cannot even imagine, but John and I have been very hands-off as far as that. They are the creative people that are going to get this information, and without any, dilution or anything from anybody else, they're going to put it out there, and what Nick has learned and all of that. And to me, and the fact that how spectacular it is mind-blowing.
Yeah, there's so many things that stood out from that teaser. I feel like we should talk about them. And Nick, I want to hear from you, because you're the one who I think knows, well, you might know like more than the average, hopefully you know more than the average person at this point. But what stood out to you as you were interviewing, as you were like, what was going through your mind as y'all were creating the teaser?
A couple things. First of all, it was look, to do these things at this caliber, it would be absolutely silly for anyone out there to think that any one person's genius outshined anybody else's. Like, if it wasn't for a vision and a tenacity that both John and Nora have, and connections stuff, because this is not my world at all. And I'll be dead honest with you. I stay in one very small lane, and that lane is having lots of conversations. And I a lot of times do it with a camera around, and I have a great team of doing research. And I'm just sort of like, I'm like Barney Fife, like just trying to figure this out, I'm just like sitting there going, well, tell me more, and so it's incredible. My editing team, and my editor is a saint. I just shove hard drives at him, and I say, look, we are not nearly Michelangelo, but the only thing you can carve in that marble is what's already in there. So here it is. Find me, David, and so, and he does it, as you can see with just that teaser, he does it spectacularly well. So, I've learned, I think most importantly, that like, this is a real issue, right? And it's just, I think the thing that's so mind blowing to me is that, how can this be a real issue? And I think there's got to be, probably the thing working against this cause the most is just, it's incredulous. Like there's no way, like you can't convince me this is really happening. You must be some sort of zealot. There's just whatever, right? And it's like, it's bizarre that it would be happening in all around us in everyday life. And no one else is really talking about it until you get into these seemingly small factions. I don't think they're not that small as far as the number of people involved, but they are small compared to the percentage of the population. And of course, a big part of this is shame and regret, right? Which is stopping a lot of people from even joining that conversation. So I think those are probably the most mind-blowing things I've learned. Of course, many a tear has been shed just heart-to-heart conversation, just seeing how much it hurt somebody. Yeah. And, we all have things I think we can point back to in our past that like, it cut us to the core, but most of those things, like they might have lived on for a lot of these things. They might have lived on mentally with you, but you moved on past it. Well, this you can't move past. And there are certain other things. If someone chops your arm off, or there's many things you cannot move past. But this is definitely one of those that if you don't get the help you need, and how crazy it is that how many people think they can't do it. I'll say one more thing, and I promise I'll shut up. But when we were interviewing David, you know, the early 60s gentleman who's at the beginning of that teaser.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he was on our podcast.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
I can just tell you from dinner the first and second night to where he got to within a week is a completely different human being, like a different human being. Like something in his brain clicked that he had been telling himself for 60 something years, he just couldn't do this. And he was so much negative self-talk, and it was incredible to see like live. And we have lots of footage of that, like this, like pain and baggage, like being removed from his face and body, like in real time, like literally looks like a different person at the end. It's crazy. I never realized the amount of weight that certainly that I wasn't sure how anything could have that much weight on somebody, but far less reading. So,
yeah, I know. And we just
can relate to David.
Absolutely. Yeah. We remember your story from
had the same journey. I would like to also add to when I'm listening to Nick, I'm saying, there's a fellow zealot. There's a fellow zealot.
Yeah.
You recruited him.
He got it. He has the passion for it, and he has the creativity to put it out there. And I think also this is perfect timing. I mean, just think about the show that we're on right now, Love Literacy. I mean, it is a perfect time for us to create this documentary, and other things are happening. And I just think that our challenge is to find the words that don't push people back. We don't intend to blame anybody, and at the same time we have to use some. We have to, as Nora say, we ruffle feathers sometimes, and I think that's the. And I do believe teaching. After listening to Nick there, I believe that among other things, teaching reading is an act of love. It saves people's lives and it changes people's lives. Even like David and John Corkin had a successful people in life and functional people in life. It's a biggie. It's a biggie. And I've said it 1,000 times. When I learned to read, it filled a big hole in my soul. And I think when we teach 95% of the people in America to read, we're going to fill a big hole in America's soul and deal with a lot of the problems that we're talking about today.
I want to piggyback too of Nick and what he said as far as this trauma that is so deeply seated. And I actually just had a conversation today with David, and he's like, people just don't get that it doesn't just disappear. And I had a teacher after they watched the trailer, the teaser, who said, what was really shocking to me is I have been told, and I believed all of my life that, we're going to send them on to the next grades and they're going to get it there. Mm-hmm. It never occurred to me that they then become adults and they've never got it. Right. And I shared that with David, and David was like, where do they think we're going to pick it up? Like on the street corner, or fall into our head? How's that going to happen? And that was really eye-opening to me.
Yeah,
absolutely. I was just going to say, I mean, not to say that I knew everything that was in that teaser already, but we've talked to John, we talked to David, we knew some of the actual stories that were in there, but it was still so powerful for me watching it. Like Lori kind of said, I kind of tear up every time. And I think what you all did was the personal stories, and like you said, how it affects people was just you connect to them so deeply. But also you nicely packaged it with the big picture too, right? Of this is a big systemic problem, right? Not a one teacher did it wrong or something but this is a big problem. I'm just wondering if there's any other reactions that you all have gotten from people who have watched the teaser. Have you heard anything similar, different?
I'm not gonna lie, I looked at the YouTube for thumbs up and thumbs down. You have definitely way more thumbs up. So that's
thumbs down at all.
Who's thumbs downing?
Well, that's what I was thinking. I saw a couple thumbs downs and I thought, who are the thumbs downs? And I thought Probably, I mean, Nora's probably doing the same thing. It's like I'm making an assumption. Maybe it's like balanced literacy advocates who don't yet know, and that's what I keep thinking. I'm like, okay, well, at least they watched it and thumbs down it, and and so at least they've got that in their brain, because I do feel like it registers. I mean, even if they're not ready for it now, it's like you're going to plant a little seed, and along the way it will register. So I even thought the thumbs down were just fine. Like we're going to convert them to reading science.
The interesting thing with that too, and John can expound on this, about how people say, and I know they've said it to John, I've been there when they have, oh, you were lying. You're just doing this to sell books. You're saying you couldn't read. You really couldn't. And what's wonderful, Nick just sent me, David and I are going to be presenting his story at Plain Talk, the literacy conference, which is really exciting. But they just made a little video of the first minute that David was reading, and then the last day, the first minute of that last bit. And I showed it to David, and he says, I'm so embarrassed for the first minute. He's like, this is excruciating to watch, which was even excruciating for me, because I thought my heart was going to break in 10 pieces. But then to see literally what happened and how he was reading as well as I could read. And you cannot deny video evidence. You just can't. Right. But it's hard to believe. I get that with people. It's like Nick says, it's really hard to believe. How could this even be so? But it is. And it's so, I just had another call this week from a 40-year-old, very successful business owner who got a really huge award from Apple, and it requires taking some classes. And she's like, I almost want to rescind it. I mean, it's a very prestigious award. She's like, I need help with, and I've known her for years. I've known her for 6 years, and she's been too afraid to bring it up, to ask for help. So I'm going to start helping her on Wednesday. So,
well, that's amazing.
It's a lot of trauma.
I want to share a bit of my humanism here. When I see, I think of like a few thumbs down, I say, I want to know, where are these people? I want to talk to them and I want to know why didn't you get it? But it's just a few people compared to hundreds of people. But it's just kind of that instinctive thing to be perfect.
Listen, John, we're not going to get you an Instagram account. Okay, you're going to stay off Instagram, because I hear that people are even worse on Instagram than on YouTube. So.
I can tell you the number of times when you said that, Lori, it made me laugh, because John and I he tells me every thumbs down, and we talk, and he's like, what are you talking about? What could that possibly be? How could they possibly do that? Like,
well, I laugh at it. I have to stop looking at all these things, but like, we have a film on Amazon that has 1,343 reviews and has 4.9 stars. And it's like 1,389 or 5-star. And there's like 5 of them. And you find yourself after a while, like you're literally, this is how human nature works based on negativity. Like, I'm just scrolling past hundreds of people who've left 5 stars to find the jerk who wrote 1 star to see what they have to say. And it's just not worth it. But I think what I've tried to come to the conclusion, and this is a great example of it, like, I don't know someone's story and what led them to the point they are in their life. So the best I can do is try to show them an alternative, try to show them, my biggest thing is trying to add, heart and hope to every story. And so I don't come at anything with just vitriol and anger, because it doesn't help at all. And so I know some of those people are they're really mad because somebody did something to them in their life, and I can't undo that, but at least I can maybe try to show them the truth. So I try to ignore those people, but it is hard. It's very hard to ignore.
Yeah. Human nature is real.
I have a story. I attended a memorial service for a teacher friend of mine. And he was a very popular teacher, and he also was a principal. And the church was full of people that went there to celebrate. And a lot of my teacher colleagues were there, and I haven't seen them for years. And it was really a kind of a nice reunion. I was the person who announced that I was a teacher who couldn't read. I wasn't really the favorite son for a while. Teachers have enough bad mouthing for me to share that story. But a friend of mine, a colleague of mine, I thought he was my friend, but came up to me after the funeral. I hadn't seen him in 25 years. And he asked me, we shook hands, and he asked me why I hated teachers. And I'm like, what did I say? What did I do to have him to have this perception? Because I told my story. Basically, And we were all there to respect a colleague, and so it's this perception that somebody has, and the importance of telling our story without pushing people out, and I feel like those people that are thumbs down, you got some wrong information. I want to correct that, but that was really an interesting experience for me. And my family, my sister-in-law, my brother-in-law, my brother, our sisters, they're teachers. So how could I hate teachers,
Yeah.
And I think that's probably, we've got some thin ice that we walk on when we tell our story here, when we do this documentary. It's challenging, and we are going to have to. We are not going to be able to really fix the problem without talking about the problem. We have to really articulate what's going on now. And I've heard from so many teachers, and Nora also, that they weren't educated. They didn't. They went through college and they never took a course that taught them how to teach a child, a teen, or an adult how to read. And I think that's, if there's anything that I hope we move with this documentary, is that.
Yeah. We'll say, like, we were taught, but it wasn't right. If that makes sense. Like, we weren't actually taught the right stuff. So the things that they were teaching us, it was almost like we had to unlearn and then relearn. But it's hard when you think that you're doing it right, but then you don't see results. So in your heart it's not right. At least I did. Melissa, I think you did too, right?
Is harder than learning.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny because I actually saw a video on Instagram, since you brought it up, of another science of reading advocate who was basically saying that she was like, I've heard so many people say that I'm blaming teachers and I'm bad mouthing teachers. And she's like, this is not what I'm doing. It's the whole system, right? It's how teachers are being taught, what they're being taught, how what curriculum they're given. It's everything. It's not the teacher's choice necessarily, but
teachers
it's everything.
Are hurting. Teachers are suffering.
Yeah.
So, and I've had just recently too, 3 conversations in this week from superintendents to administrator types that are like, we're teaching 6 different programs. All of them go against each other. I'm like, whoa, the poor teachers, the poor children, everybody's got to be schizophrenic.
Who are working hard.
So then what happens is we just pour more on top because we think, well, this isn't working. So let's, dilute it down a little bit more with some other things. And they're desperate, but not knowing really what to do or even, what direction to go in a lot of times. So kids are hurting significantly, and parents, but teachers are too.
I think we're talking about how important teachers are, not how unimportant they are. I think it's critical, and what we're trying to do for teachers. I feel like I'm an advocate for teachers. I'm an advocate for good teachers.
Mm-hmm.
They're the distributors. We got to give them the right thing to distribute, right? And so if I'm a food distributor and you give me lettuce with salmonella, I didn't create the lettuce with the salmonella. I just distributed it. So we've got to give them the healthy things, the right things. And oftentimes we know this is another one that I discovered in sort of this. Of course, if we've been doing something one way, or we've had a belief system one way, it is very hard to change our belief system. But I think even harder than this, that I have talked to, obviously it feels like 1,000 teachers now. Nora has more and more lined up, but and there's also people have talked about a level of guilt that I had never considered, that they actually feel responsible when they admit the fact that they didn't know the right way. And they were, zealously trying to teach with the other methods, like trying to do the right things. There becomes inevitably a realization that, wow, how many kids did I teach the wrong thing, or how many kids did I fail? And I think that's an unfair question to ask because you're just doing the best with what you knew. If you knew it was wrong, and quite frankly, the harder part is if now the data is being shown to you and you continue, I have a different level of judgment for that than I would for like, if you didn't know it existed. Well, now you do. Let's try to get you the tools you need in order to help you correct the problem.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if not
Oh,
the
and
teachers, the people making the decisions for what the teachers are teaching.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too, Melissa. I'm like, sometimes it's not the teacher, it's the system. A lot of all the time, it's not the teacher, it's the systems. Like if the district, for example, my daughter's district uses the Teachers College Reading Writing Workshop, which the report came out that, I mean, there have been multiple reports in the past, but one recently came out that it's like the worst of the worst ratings in terms of alignment to science of reading across the board. And we're still using it. And so I feel like, well, what's the plan to switch now? Like now that we know and we've known, but now there's even more evidence, if you just turn a blind eye, that's malpractice. I don't know what else to say.
I think what we've done, we've institutionalized illiteracy unintentionally, and we have to dismantle it. And we have to be able to articulate what we want to do. Also, I think Nick cracked the door open for me to bring to the attention. I think that it is really time for us to quit using the term learning disabled to define humans. I think we have to get it out of our brains and off our tongues. And it's just one of those little things. And we aren't disabled. We're able with proper instruction. And the power comes from the teacher. And that's not, you're not doing your job. It's like, this is the reality. It's not, that is institutional, that's contaminated, it's toxic. I escaped that. I didn't personally experience it. I was labeled someone that sat in a dumb row, which is, probably nicer than being learning disabled. But it's always something wrong with the learner. And I think that's really something that really has to shift. And it's not that complicated. Just consider that. Everybody that's listening, just consider that word and what it means. And I sometimes I say, well, test it. This is the way you test it. If you're a teacher, how do you feel about being called teaching disabled? I mean, how is that? How's that go? So anyway,
I think that even that umbrella term and all of the things that come under it, dyslexia, ADHD, on the spectrum, all of those things have the perception, whether we are doing it consciously or subconsciously, that it's the learner's fault that they're not reading, when really it's the fault of the instruction. If they're not learning, then what do we need to do differently so that they are? But we've had this thing, and it's universal, from the teachers we teach from coast to coast, is that they're not learning, but they have this, or no, they don't. They're doing this and they're doing that, and they need instruction that's different so that they're doing different things, and then they'll be reading and writing and spelling. But the mindset is so deeply entrenched, and there's so much of a, coercion around that, and that might be the wrong word, but surrounding that word of like grabbing onto it. And yes, this explains it, but it really doesn't. The whole thing, like John says, you're either reading or you're not reading. You're not reading, you need to learn how to read. The solution for all of it is the same thing: reading instruction that works. That's it.
I think one thing that's sort of hard to process too, and again, it's not a blame thing, but it's interesting that I think unknowingly some parents who also don't know how to teach their kids how to read, right? Like we don't know, we weren't taught these things either, right? That when you're that frustrated, sometimes it probably feels like a lifeline when there's a diagnosis, like, oh, it's not my fault, and so I think that's a very interesting thing that I thought through too, that all of it can be dealt with proper instruction. And again, let's admit that, for any teacher, especially, I'm sure every age is hard teaching, but let's talk like 5 to 7 years old, like making 20 to 30 ducklings who are very differently made do the exact same thing at the same time, thinking that the same methods are going to work. Like even that alone is just sort of like, that's pretty funny that you might even think that that's even possible. And so, but we just all have to do better. And now that we know that there's things that work, that's great. But I would encourage parents, first of all, it isn't your fault. Like, that's okay. But let's not grab onto these labels as a lifeline, because they really end up, in a lot of cases, hurting more than they help. Although I do think that those labels, I think that maybe if we can find beauty in the curse of those labels, is perhaps to identify underneath them, there's some traits that child might share, that if we can now go find a learning system that might be appropriate for them.
One of the things I think we do when we're frustrated, the parents or advocates for dyslexia, whoever it might be, we create myths. And for me, a myth of dyslexia being a gift. When we look at people, children and teenagers that are thinking about suicide, and some of them that are committing suicide, and when we talk about the grief, the trauma that we are witnessing, as you interview people, Nick, it's not a gift. It is not a gift, and it's a burden to struggle with learning how to read. And I think the other thing is, and because we've been talking about not blaming, it's like, are we blaming somebody? Well, I'm looking at the universities right now, and the universities need to be challenged, and they're the ones that are doing the instruction, and they're the ones that are not serving the teachers, and I'm not saying I don't want to say blame. I want to say wake up, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a piece of this. You're a critical piece of this.
Yeah.
In terms of the solution here, and you can't hide.
I want to give a shout out, because we're talking a lot about, like, oh, it feels a little heavy, and I understand that. But I'm going to give a shout out to Angie Hanlon. Angie was a principal, and she just this year became a superintendent in a school in Missouri, I'm pretty sure it's Missouri, that had 13% proficiency in third grade 5 years ago. 3 years later, they were 93% proficient. And she literally she and her team, obviously nobody does anything by themselves, turned that school around. And she texted maybe a month ago. She's now in Wisconsin she's, as a superintendent, but those third graders were in fifth grade last year, COVID year, and their state testing in fifth grade, 100% proficiency, including all special ed kids. So this is what's possible when we, when we're together in, problem solving and moving forward and doing that. Did they get from 13 to 100% in the first year? No, but 5 years, including with COVID for a year and a half, they did, including every single special ed student. So that's what's possible. And she's not the only one. There are other people doing that. So there's roadmaps out there that people can follow, to get those kinds of results. So that's exciting.
Yeah, that's incredible. Maybe we need to talk to her too. Put her on the list.
She's on our interview list. We haven't talked to her yet, but you need to talk to her.
Yeah, that's the exciting part, is that, we're planning to interview the folks that you interviewed on your documentary, but hopefully we can sit down and have a really intimate conversation with them and go a little more in depth than what we get to see. I don't know, how long are you anticipating the documentary being? Not like 17 hours, right? Like, are you thinking a series?
No, I mean, a series would be fun. That's a whole other level of funding that I don't think we're going to crack. But 75 to 90 minutes is where we'll end up. And so it will make the problem credible. It will also show that there are multiple solutions. Again, there's no one size fits all, but there are multiple solutions that when they have the right ingredients, they work. And so, and then, like you said, we're making it personal. I mean, I think the biggest problem with most of these issues is we remove the people from them. And the moment you insert the people, you realize, oh, wait a second. I mean, look, this has been happening in holy wars for thousands of years. The moment you sit across from somebody who breathes like you, looks sort of like you, talks sort of like you, needs food 3 times a day, or like me, like 10 times a day, whatever it is, like you start to say, wait a second, like I had an issue with that thing, but that thing really doesn't exist when they're in front of me. This is just another human being. And we might might not agree on certain things, but we agree on a lot more than we disagree on. So we're going to bring it down to the level of, this is someone's dad, this is someone's daughter, this is someone's mother, this is someone's, and we've all been in those relationships and go, oh, wait a second, this is just another human being. And I cannot deny their experience. This is and we're showing their experience. So like, I can't, I mean, and when you see there's many tiers, and I forget the older gentleman's name in your office, Nora.
Dan Corcoran. Dan.
Yeah, that's Dan. Yeah. And just seeing how shook up he got about talking about this experience of spending most of his life feeling that way. You can't deny that. I mean, I'll go on under oath anywhere you want. I'll go before a firing line and say, we paid no one to act at any way, shape, or form. And quite frankly, there's no benefit to anybody to admitting these things, right? I mean, I hope we can change that conversation, that it will be a prideful thing to do. It'll be a celebrated thing to do, to admit, hey, I want to change that conversation, because I do believe that the shame and guilt is probably the biggest factor working against this problem, is how few people are willing to stand up and say, yep, that was me, or it is me right now. Doesn't matter the age, doesn't matter the stage. Like, let's create a campaign that celebrates those people and then helps them find instruction. So, because you can literally change your life. It's mind blowing.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's so important. So we're curious, speaking of the documentary, what needs to happen still to make it a reality? What are you all working on now?
We are working on a lot more interviews in a lot more states. And, really it just requires funding. I mean, these things are to get the caliber of storytelling that we have there. And you saw 4 minutes, and I think it took, I'm going to make a rough guess here, but it's probably 100 hours of editing for those 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's beyond the flights and the hotels and the meals and stuff, just to get the caliber of, as you saw the way. So there's a gift that my crew has in this of David, a guy like David, letting us into a very vulnerable part of his life. I mean, and lots of Nora, many other people made him comfortable to do that, but with cameras on him, without feeling like we're taking advantage of him, without feeling like we're stripping him of his dignity. Well, he's going to let us in. And so for me, it's funny that my crew's all insanely talented, but finding insanely talented people who you can put in these situations and everyone's comfortable, or as comfortable as you're going to be, like, it's like finding unicorns. And so, we got to get all these right people in the right places at the right times. And we're a really good ways in that journey. I'd say we probably filmed about half of what we need, but it seems like we need about another half. And then, okay, yeah, Nora says no. Yeah. Okay. Got it. So we got more than that. Really. So Nora runs that whole side, and I let her do her thing. And then we have a lot of editing. It'll be, my best guess is probably 16 weeks of editing. So, and that'll be 50 to 60 hour weeks at 16 weeks. So it's just a lot of work, and I got to pay everybody. And while, look, we're certainly careful with how we spend, because we don't do anything glamorous. I mean, we're not staying at 5-star hotels, I can tell you that. But I also believe in paying people a fair living wage. Not only that, I believe in, the people who I work with, they're competitive. I mean, there's other people vying for their time for 8 weeks at a time and on major television shows and movies. And my job is to say, this is more important, come with me. And we win that battle. We get there, but they also have families to feed.
Sure. Well, please thank them for us. Please do that. And I know that there's some fundraising information that you all can share, and Melissa and I are hopping on to make a donation because we so firmly believe in this. And that's why, thank you all for your hard work. But Nora, would you mind sharing some of the fundraiser information, like where we can find the links and things like that? And we'll link it all in the show notes.
Yep. We have a website, thetruthaboutreading.com, and on there it says gift right up at the top. And you can just donate directly there with one click, and you're in, and you could donate. I was actually looking at our list of donations. We've had anywhere from $2, which we appreciate very much, to executive producer level, which is $25,000 that we have had. And every single thing, including $12, which John's like, $12, that's interesting. So everywhere we love $12. We love any kind of dollars. So we're happy about that. So we are open. What we've been mindful about is having the fundraising be grassroots, so that really all of this documentary, as far as what is going to be in it, leading the Nick to the people, but then he and his team, it's not, influenced by any outside source at all. And for John and I, that's really, really critical to, and Nick just, he'll interview somebody. He's like, there's a few questions. Let's find somebody else that knows this information, or even that has this other, and then I try to go out and see about finding those kind of people, but to get to the bottom of it and get to the truth. So the fundraising, John and I are not fundraisers, but we have been working really hard at it. And so we are in that grassroots mode. We have people that are interested in executive producer level, and we have a packet that we send when people ask about that. But on the Truth About Reading, that information is all there. We just created a information and fundraising packet that has all kinds of great stuff in it. It's got the timeline, and it's got, all kinds of information about the film, and it's got fundraising information and a whole bunch of pictures from the filming and everything that's been happening so far. So that's a great place to get, a bunch of links all in one place. So really the easiest thing is to go to the truthaboutreading.com and click the button and donate, or put it on your on your own, like not fundraising, but Facebook page or Twitter or all of those kinds of things, and share with if you feel passionate, about this issue, which a lot of people do, share this with your network, share this with your, friends and family, and others. And we do have people too that John and I have been talking to just recently, that they're going to gather some people to, as a group, get together and be executive producer level donors. So
that's creative. I like that. Nick, can I ask you a question? Can you articulate, and maybe this is a Nora question, so I don't want to slight you, Nora, but can you articulate why it's important to do I don't know what to call it, like a private fundraising versus a corporate fundraising? And forgive me if that's not the right language. And also forgive me, John, if I should be asking you as well. I don't want to leave you out.
No, I'll speak to you. Look, I mean, there's clearly, I think it's not fair. We have cognitive bias. All of us do. So I think it's not fair ever to say nothing's biased, right? And we didn't, but I certainly have cognitive biases, but I'm trying to approach the story from hey, let me learn. Sometimes people will say something and I'll be like, let me ask someone else if that's really true. And I'll go, I was talking to a guy at Stanford the other day. He's like, that's really cute, but not true. I was like, all right, well, can we talk about that? Because what I don't want to do, obviously we know no matter what, it's going to be somewhat controversial just because of the nature of the issue and because of the pieces at stake. But what I don't want to do is put out something that gets immediately deleted or laughed off the scene because it's like, oh, that's absolutely ridiculous. That's number one, that's 100% false and not even possible. Or this is just a zealot, who's really excited, but not, but this is not good science or whatever. And so, it's very hard to ensure 100% of that, but we're doing the best we can to talk with, people with different opinions, people who are, I'm trying to talk with people who are scientists as well, that not just reading people like, hey, how does this work? It's so funny how universities, they advocate for science and the evolution and evolving processes of things, yet they don't insert them in certain other places. But so it's just trying to get to
education fields.
Right. It seems like that. It's a hunch I have. But so it's just trying to get to the right people who can passionately yet credibly share with me. And even, I want to interview somebody who says that's not true. This other method we've been working. I don't know if I can find anyone who will say it because the data shows not, but I want to show, look, how about this? So anytime someone tells me that will never, ever, 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 ever work, I go, let's get someone who could tell me how that might work at some point. So there's got to be someone out there that is willing to say, hey, this system, because clearly it works for some percentage of kids. We've seen that. And so here's how and when this will work. So that's okay. We just now know that it doesn't work for more people than it does work for. But share with me how it does work so I can say, okay, that makes sense. So it's not just hey, this is all crap. This is trash. None of this works. Because people, I would imagine, I don't know them, but I'm going to approach it as people with good intentions started these curriculums. They were trying to help children to read. Most people don't go, I want to make $1 billion. I'm going to teach kids how to read. But, so it's systemic, right? It's over time. It's just sort of gotten baked in and all those other things. But I want to talk to people on both sides because the more we can be fair about it, the more people can make up their own mind. I think the good news for all of us is that the data is pretty clear on what's right and what's wrong and what's fair and what's not. But if we don't allow sort of all factions to at least say their piece, then you get written off pretty quickly because you intentionally deleted them from the film. The other thing about, I'm a storyteller, so I do get to shape and mold the story. And so I'm trying to be fair about it. But if someone says something that I don't believe is fully accurate, I can very easily have my editor, I had someone behind it that I think is accurate, to discount their point. So it's sort of like trying to call and argue with a radio show host. You're not going to get the last word. So like, we definitely get the last word, but I try to do it fairly. And what we don't want to do is the biggest tragedy of this is that it would be written off in any way, shape, or form, and funding being one of them. Like, oh, this was funded by this thing, so this is garbage. And we just don't want that, because that would be literally, I feel responsible for the future lives of millions of children. So anything I can do to protect those kids, like, that's what we're trying to do.
And I do want to say too, as far as, we're not saying we don't want corporate stuff. We actually have a corporation that was brought to us. But, Nick is very insistent, and John and I have appreciated this from the beginning, that this, if you donate, it's not like you have a say in how this is going to be.
We're not going to interview you because you donated. We're not gonna, you're not going to tell us how. And I was very honest with John and Nora too. I said, like, if I have something factually wrong, or, I didn't realize you were picking your boogers in the background or something, I'll change that. Like, no problem. But like, true to the thing, when we showed it to the small group of people that first saw it, I said, you're going to see it with them for the first time, because I want you to see their reaction to it. And they trusted me to do it. And look, we're all after the same thing, which is helping kids. And so if we can all trust each other that is our main goal, then let's just let everybody do their jobs. And that's what I didn't see that, the very first cut of that reel, till, I don't know, 12 hours before John and Nora saw it. Like, I just said, hey, you do your thing and just let me know when it's ready. And I said, oh, I want to change this, or that. And he's like, okay, cool. I didn't realize we had that, because he was, certain things that I would remember after he poured through in however many sleepless days, all of the footage and interviews. There's certain things that might have been lost on him that he's like, oh, got it. And so, but that's teamwork. That's how we work together. So that's why the funding is important to us, that, hey, people who want to contribute, we're not offering profit sharing. We're not, because that's not what this is about. It is about, are you passionate about the cause? Are you interested in supporting this film? And just for me, as it is for you donating your money, and I'm raising money and doing everything I can too to help. I'm seeing where the story leads. I don't know. I don't know. If I told you what the final movie is going to look like, I'd be a liar. That's why I do it. I'm sort of addicted to that. It's like, let's see where this goes. I don't know. Yeah. And we'll let the chips fall where they do.
That's been interesting too, to see the unfolding of it, where it's kind of like this winding river that is like, oh, we were going that way and now it's going this way, and this is interesting. So it's like this big surprise party.
I want to put in a bid. When we were watching the teaser, I went back to and I visually and emotionally felt the little 8-year-old that was told for his first 6 years of his life that he was a winner, John Corcoran, sitting in the dumb row. And I was thinking about all of those millions of little boys and little girls sitting in the dumb row, whether it's physically or psychologically or emotionally, today. And I'm thinking about reaching out. Like, I was feeling just a joy that, yay, we got people listening to our plea here, finally. So speaking from the little boy's experience, and this idea of asking individuals for $5 or $10 or $25 or $100, put it in there for us. Give us the voice. Not only listen to us, but be a part of this venture. And I think it's, I guess psychologically, it's like somebody's hand out to lift you up and out of that predicament. And it is a traumatic experience. And And it's still with me. I lived in some pretty tough neighborhoods. I survived that, and I've done a lot of things, but it's still emotionally. When I listen to Dave, I talk to Dave, and we talk about our journey and our pain and our frustration. And also, I want to comment about people that I was also a delinquent in school too. I was really disrupted the system, and when I hear people say, little boys and girls and teenagers that can't read or having trouble, they misbehave, and I just want to remind them, teach us to read, and we will not be so crazy.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
So crazy.
Yeah.
And
Melissa, do you
share a couple of bucks with us to make this thing happen? Put your fingerprints on it, We
will. We're going to put our money where our mouth is for sure. I mean, quite literally here. So we're going to do that.
I wasn't talking to you personally, but.
No, I know, but.
If it rings a bell, okay.
We want to be good role models. John, you've been so inspiring. I love your stories. I feel like every time you talk, I'm like, oh, it's story time. Go ahead.
Well, we love having you all on, and I'm sure we're going to have you on again once the actual documentary is out in a few years. But just wanted to close this out. We usually ask for a piece of advice, but that doesn't seem like the right thing to do here. So we're going to ask you to close us out with each of you telling us what's your hope for this documentary?
I'll go first. And I know Nick had to bounce out, but for me, my hope and dream is a highly literate society, where if you can speak, you have learned to read and write and be full participants in a literate society. That's my dream. We are leading. This documentary is a beacon to lead to that.
Absolutely.
What are you thinking about, John?
I'm thinking that I'm a participant in a miracle, and I get to experience it and witness it and enjoy it. And the experience is also being around, and maybe I'm getting older, but I really want to surround myself with good people that are good for me and good to me, and so I'm experiencing that, which is fantastic. And my wish is that I just hope that we can discern this. People can discern it. Like I was thinking about one of the things, going back to raising money, I was thinking about those thumb down people. I really want a contribution from them. Not only do I want to change their mind, but I really or see what I see. I really want them to, just a buck. Just to change it. And so those are
I don't just want to change your mind. I want to change your mind so much that you're a believer. You want to be Ted Lasso is what you want to do, John.
Exciting journey, and that we really can. We're people of goodwill, and we gather those people of goodwill, and we can move the mountain. We can do extraordinary things, and I want this film to be a piece of that. And I think it's on the way. I think we're connected with so many good people like yourselves of integrity and really a passion for doing the right thing and improving the quality of life for everyone. This is a civil rights, a human rights. It's an education issue, and we're on a journey. Love it.
Funny. I was actually doing, for my real job, I was doing some research about Frederick Douglass today, and it was all about, not all about, but so much about reading, right? And the power of him being able to read. And he fought for that right for people too. And I was like, man, look at that. Hundreds of years ago.
I know that Nick left. I do want to speak something real quick in honor of him. And John actually submitted a Ellis Island Medal of Honor award, which is the most prestigious award for immigrants that there is in this country. And I'll share with you guys actually the application that shows, because what Nick wants to do always with everything that he does, and he does a lot of things, but always what his focus is to make a difference in the world. And he and even some of his film people, when we were out in Hollywood, when the teaser was premiered, they said, of all the years and all the works and the dozens of documentaries we've done, this is the most important. So I'll share that Ellis Island, the submission for Nick. So you can get a glimpse of how serious he is about making a difference in the world, making a difference in the literacy world.
Absolutely.
Really exciting to us.
When I started learning to read, they had a little pamphlet on Frederick Douglass, and he became my hero immediately. His own struggle to escape. He credits learning to read from escaping slavery. Said it made him unfit to be a slave, learning to read. And he also, he was an orator also, and he had shared his story, and he had to quit telling his story because people weren't believing that he could be so brilliant and had been a slave. And I was related to that at the time, is because I started telling my story publicly. So Frederick Douglass is certainly one of my heroes.
Well, this is amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like I need like a talk with you all like once a week, if we can put that on the books. You're wonderful, and we're amazing. The work you're doing is amazing. And like, please thank Nick's team and everybody behind the scenes who are all the invisible do-gooders behind the scenes. Thank them for all of us and the literacy community here. We're very grateful.
Well, thank you guys for having us, for sharing the love and spreading the word. We appreciate it a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you. And we will definitely keep you posted on everything, around this episode, and we'll make sure that we elevate who's coming on from the documentary, because we cannot wait to talk to them. Like, now that I feel like, oh my gosh, I need to talk to Faith. Like, I just whipped out a notepad and started taking names. I'm like, I need to talk to all of them. They just were so inspiring. So thank you for everything that you're doing.
And for everything you guys are doing. It's great.
Thank you. We hear you listen to every episode, John. Do you listen?
Yes, I do. I'm listening to them.
Thank you for that.
I'm really appreciative of listening to teachers and parents too.
Cora's mom.
Critical people.
John and I talked about Cora's mom, Katie. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Hide behind that rock. And oh my gosh. I mean, baby.
Oh my gosh.
Very early on.
There's so many Coras, and there's so many more moms,
and
right?
We can avoid it. You guys said too, as far as unlearning is so much harder than learning for teachers, but also for kids. They all guess and unguess. So we can get the teachers from the outset, and we can start teaching kids in a classroom instead of this being an intervention thing and starting from the outset. We got this, but it takes not just a village, it takes a whole country and world.
Movement.
For sure.
Movement is what we're aiming for.
Well, thank you for being part of our literacy movement, and we're grateful to be part of yours.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye. Thank you again.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening, literacy lovers. Be sure to visit our website to subscribe to our newsletter and podcast. It's literacypodcast.com.
Yep. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Most of them are at Literacy Podcast.
Yes. And please, please, please reach out to us. Melissa, what's our email address?
Melissa and Lori at literacypodcast.com is our email address. And we love getting emails from you all. And Lori and I
really read them.
Yeah,
and we really respond.
It's fun. We love when you all reach out and we get to have conversations with you. So please email us.
Let us know what you're thinking, what you're thinking about literacy, what you're thinking about
ideas for us to podcast about.
Yes, ideas for podcasting, anything. We love to hear from you, what you liked, what you want.
Yeah,
we're here for you.
Mostly y'all are asking questions, which is great.
Yes.
We don't mind that either.
Yes. We're so glad you're here to learn with us.
Thank you, everybody.